welcome to Nerd Sports. Today, we're actually going to talk about bikini bottoms. And this is no joke. What it is the Norwegian women's beach handball team was not able to play because they're not wearing bikinis. They're wearing those kind of like shorts, like spandex shorts.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why they have to have like bikini bottoms, but it's sport, and I mean when you're moving around like that,
yeah,
especially like women because their thighs are a little bit bigger, and they rub a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that creates friction. So yeah. I mean, you heard of hot thighs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. From the best that I could figure is that, they've got a specific uniform standard as far as like the volleyball players are going to be concerned. Now, I'm assuming that we're talking about like the beach volleyball players, right?
Beach handball team.
Oh, beach handball. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be that. So I don't know.
It's a uniform thing.
Yeah, it's a uniform standard thing. So
of course, I actually seen one of the jumpers. I guess she was from Brazil.
Yeah.
And she had like a thong. I was like, huh. I'll be in the sandbox for a while.
Right. But yeah, the Olympics did start. Gold medals or medals are already being handed out. Japan's already got like 7 medals.
Oh, we can look at that.
But yeah, there's been a lot to do as far as they're talking about. I mean, I'm already seeing TikToks from Olympians within the Olympic Village.
Actually, it's Japan has 8 medals. The United States has 7. China has 6. Britain has 3. What's ROC?
The Russian Olympic Confederation.
Really?
Yeah.
They renamed their whole thing?
Well, as far as the Olympics are concerned, yeah. So.
Why? I'm looking that up right now.
Well, because they're still, I guess they're still like a confederation of countries, like Estonia, but places like that, Georgia. It's not specifically just Russia. So I mean, they've got athletes from all of the satellite satellite countries, suburbs as you would to Vladimir Putin's Moscow.
You mean the war they keeps on bringing up, like in Ukraine?
Yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah, they're still warring in Ukraine.
But
weird.
I'm not
but they
really.
Can't use, well, what's funny about this is they can't use their flag.
Yeah. So, but I mean, all that aside, I'm not really that big into the Olympics this year, or this time around, and it's just because
it was supposed to happen last year.
Well, one, it was supposed to happen last year, but two, I don't know, the coverage. What little I did see, and this is just passing, of the opening ceremony. Anytime the Americans or anybody, I mean, just all NBC could ever talk about was Dr. Jill Biden. Like, nobody gives a rat's ass if the first lady, if we want to call her that, is attending the Olympics or not. I mean, nobody cares. I mean, it's not there for political grandstanding. It's not there for appearance's sake. It's not there to say, hey, I was the who is who, kind of deal. It's there to recognize these elite athletes that have taken time out of their lives to represent our country. And I mean, we had one of our Team USA baseball players be the flag bearer for the United States this year, which I thought was kind of cool because, baseball wasn't part of the Olympics last time when they were in Rio. So.
Well, that type of stuff has always been going on.
Yeah, but.
Can't really, you can't really say yay or nay on that stuff because every once in a while they'll still have a president go in and shoot, or
And that's
someone
fine.
representative from the
Right,
United States.
but it's a sitting member of that country's government. You know, it's not one of these. I mean, I honestly think that the reason why they sent the first lady as opposed to the president, is because they were probably afraid that he was going to be sniffing people in the stands.
No, they'd probably lose him.
He is an optical liability for the Democrat Party.
He's a puppet.
Yeah, very much so.
Wow, the reverb on this stuff is really bad. I gotta redo the. I gotta really put up that flag.
Yeah.
So get some of that.
But yeah, because when we took down those, I think that those center panels really made a difference.
I can hear it right now.
Yeah, I can hear it too. But moving on to baseball. Okay, so for those of you who haven't figured it out yet, I am a Red Sox fan. I am diehard Washington the Bloody Sock Red Sox fan.
Literally the customer service up at Black Rifle No Coffee knows that you're a Red Sox fan.
Yes, yeah. One of the representatives of Black Rifle Coffee's customer service department literally knows that I'm a Red Sox fan because he's a White Sox fan. And we get into it. We poke fun at each other every once in a while whenever I do have to call in, which isn't very often, but still nonetheless. Yankees and Red Sox were playing this past weekend. It was a 4-game set. It was a Thursday through Sunday game or set, so it was 4 games. Sweeping a team 4 games in a row is really hard to do during the season, especially hard to do during the postseason unless the other team just completely falls flat. But the Sunday's game was probably one of the better comeback, victories for the Red Sox all season, and it's probably going to be one of the marquee wins for the entire season. They were getting no hit by the Yankees by Domingo Germain through 7 innings, and then here comes the bottom of the 8th, and Alex Verdugo is set to lead off in that inning, and he parks a double. Gets in, slides in for a double. He's safe. Breaks up the no-hitter, right? Yankees fans are sitting there, trying to troll Red Sox fans because obviously we're happy about the fact that we're not going to get no-hit by the Yankees.
Yeah.
And you see all these tweets on Twitter just coming out that didn't age well because they're sitting there just trolling the crap out of Red Sox Nation about the 1 hit that we got. Well, 4 hits later, for a total of 5 hits in that inning, the Red Sox not only managed to get on the board, but they managed to take the lead in the 8th inning, and they held that lead and won the game 5-4. So the amount of people amongst the Yankee faithful that absolutely lost their shit.
Yeah, you were telling me this off air that everybody and their brother that was a Yankees fan just was about to riot.
Yeah, let me pull him up real quick. There's a guy I follow him on both Instagram and Twitter just because, even though he's a Yankees fan, I don't know him personally. We haven't met, we haven't even spoken, but we follow each other. And he's replied to a couple of my tweets, not being like complete and total like sellouts for their team, but it's just like kind of hey, that you got to tip your hat to this play or that play, kind of a thing. So we were just acknowledging each other at that point. But he does a live stream usually from his apartment in New York City when he's watching the games, and I think he does it on Twitch. I'm not sure, but he's sitting there watching this 8th inning unfold, the bottom of the 8th. And you could see his grip on calmness slip and then ultimately fall apart. I mean, it disintegrated like it was shot with Marvin the Martian's Q812 space modulator, disintegrator gun. And he loses his absolute mind. I mean, he starts cussing in Spanish. He starts yelling at the microphone, yelling at the camera, yelling at the TV. I think he yelled loud enough for Aaron Boone, New York's manager, to hear him in Boston. The Yankee tweets got really, really quiet after the game was over, and then this morning they all fired up again, calling for Aaron Boone's head on a pike, and talking about how he mismanages the bullpen. He doesn't know how to run a team. He's in over his head. He has absolutely no clue what he's doing. I mean, they've called him everything but a white man and a Christian. And the New York media has just absolutely annihilated this team. The New York Post, they're always famous for, when the Yankees are doing well. I mean, they're always famous for trolling the team that the Yankees are playing, especially the Red Sox, right? And but when the Yankees are down, oh my God, you would swear that they would be calling for Major League Baseball to relocate the Yankees to a city somewhere other than New York, just so that way they didn't have to associate themselves with that city.
Really?
But, oh God, it's horrible. I mean, there's kind of a running joke amongst players in the major leagues where if you get drafted, signed, whatever, if you get traded to the Yankees or even to the Mets, you better bring a condom, because the New York media is going to absolutely fuck your feelings. And if you can't hack it in the New York media, in the New York market, they don't want you there, kind of a deal. And it's brutal, man. I mean, I'm reading some of these like headlines from not just this game, not just this past Sunday, not yesterday's game, but just in general. I mean, whenever either team is down, it's absolutely brutal. Like for example, Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, the dude is constantly getting hurt, and the Yankees are on the hook for his salary. I mean, he signed a rather large contract to go play for the Yankees, and he did it through the free agency market. So when he signed with New York, everybody's expecting him to put up these huge numbers and blast these mammoth home runs and these moonshots that he was pulling off as a member of the Marlins down in Miami. But when he got to New York, I mean, he had that like little hot streak for a while there, and then just kind of fell off the face of the earth. I mean, he's batting less than 250 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And his home run production's down, obviously, because he's hurt all the time. Aaron Judge is on the injured list. They're not kind. If you're not producing and you're not winning championships, if you're not bringing home the Commissioner's Trophy for the Yankees, the New York media will be all over you like white on rice. It's funny. And to an extent, the Boston media is kind of the same way with Red Sox players, but not to the extent that the New York Post or the New York Times are. But it's funny nonetheless, just to kind of sit back and watch. And you start seeing, like, whenever a player starts to struggle in either one of those markets, you start to see like little blurbs on Twitter or Facebook, or even with the newspapers, that this particular player is letting the pressure of the media get to them. And David Price, when he came to play for Boston for a few years back, he signed as a free agent from Detroit, and he was supposed to be part of like a killer rotation. I mean, he was going to sign, seal, and deliver a World Series trophy his first season to Boston. And he had all these high hopes and expectations placed on him, and the dude absolutely wilted under that glaring spotlight.
He had the yips.
Yeah, he gets out
I finally
there.
figured out that word.
Yeah, and
I was watching Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
and season they were talking about the yips. It's like, that's what it is. I knew
Right.
there's a name for it.
Exactly. Yeah, and so
I feel accomplished now.
I started the first episode of Ted Lasso, and I fell asleep. So I mean, I know that I'm probably screwing the pooch here, and people that watch the show that are they'll swear by it. So
It's a cute little show.
yeah, and that's what I've seen. So I'm going to pick it back up probably after the first of the month. I'm just going to kind of dedicate a little bit of time just to kind of maybe watch one or two episodes a day, maybe just to get caught up.
It's a cross between a drama and a comedy.
Yeah,
Really.
so it's basically a serialized rom-com centered around sports. Okay. But this game, I mean, I was listening to the game through my At Bat app that I pay for every year, willingly fork over $25 every year, just to be able to listen to all the games. I was keeping tabs on the game throughout the course of the day on Sunday, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm like, oh God, this is going to be horrible, And I'm sitting there resigning myself to the fact that we might squeak out a hit against them, but I didn't anticipate that the offense was going to catch fire all of a sudden in the eighth inning. But when they did, well, I tell you what, I mean, I got excited. I'm sitting there getting happy because listening to the radio call. I mean, just Joe Castiglione just kind of getting after it, man. And it's games like that where you really, you just this is one of those games that even as a fan, not to mention being a player, but as a fan, you're able to hang your hat on because it's against your rivals. It's against the hated Yankees, and the only other team that I could even remotely equate that kind of excitement to when they start doing that well, they have that sudden outburst, would be like maybe the Astros.
Oh, I was thinking Navy football team.
Well, I keep up with Army football throughout the course of the year, so Army is already projected to being one of the teams represented in the Armed Forces Bowl again this coming January. So you better believe my ass is going to be there. I didn't go to last year's game because one, it was the whole COVID thing, and they were freaking out about spacing and making pods in the stands, and I'm like, And besides that, Army didn't go to the game, so I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't really care. I mean, yeah, it would have been cool to go to another bowl game. That's fine, but it's just something special as an Army vet, or even as a veteran, period, just to be able to go to that game and see one of the service academies represented. Because I mean that game, I mean, it's named for the armed forces, so I mean it's there to represent the military and the veterans that graduate from those services. But and I'm reading this. I'm giving credit to Ian Brown. I'm reading this from the news page on my At Bat app. It says Sox 5th run 8 stuns the Yanks. Quote, "We never quit." The Red Sox were punchless for 7 innings on Sunday afternoon at Fenway Park, but when they punched back, they flattened the Yankees with a furious 5-run rally in the bottom of the 8th en route to a thrilling 5-4 victory. That gave them 3 out of 4 in the latest rivalry series. The epic bottom of the 8th by Boston topped what the Yankees did on Saturday, when they came back from 3 down with 2 outs in the top of the 8th to score and win 4-3. So the Yankees ended up winning on Saturday, but they didn't so much on Sunday.
Sounds like they screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, and I mean the Sox were down 4-0, and they didn't even have so much as a hit through the first 7 innings. Domingo Germain, who was the Yankees pitcher that day, I mean he shut down the offense. I mean, he was doing a great job through 7 innings. And then when he comes back out for the 8th, he gives up that hit. But then out of nowhere, it just came this 5-hit barrage. It was just, I mean, there was I think the attendance for that day was 32,009 people, if I remember the number right. I mean, they were just kind of sitting there stunned. Just it was quiet in the ballpark. You could hear people murmuring, whatever. But, I mean, when they started getting base hits and started putting runs on the board, I mean, the place actually, I mean, absolutely came alive. And the atmosphere just was electric. And you could hear it through the radio speakers from the broadcast. But lefty Martin Perez said, "We never quit." He kept his team in it because he's probably the back end of that starting rotation. Whenever Martin Perez has a start, I kind of shudder a little bit. I'm like, all right, which version of Martin Perez is going to show up? And even though he gave up 4 runs over over the course of his stay in the game, he still kept it close, because if you let the Yankees get out to a lead they're really notorious for pushing that lead out and just really taking the wind out of everybody's sails. I mean, I'll begrudgingly give the Yankees credit there in that in that respect, that when they're on, and when they come in and they start annihilating people. I mean, that's exactly what they do. They put their foot on their floor, and they don't lift. I mean, they're going through a hairpin turn, wide open. I mean, it's one of those teams where when they get on a streak, when they get on a roll, it's almost kind of like they have to. I mean, they have to beat themselves in order to come out, to come off of that streak. And this, the 2021 version of the New York Yankees is probably going to be one of those teams where, they're going to falter. And you see a lot of these analysts, especially on the MLB Network, where they're talking about, the Yankees are pretty much out of it at this point. I mean, even if they start making really great trades at the trade deadline, they're 9 games out of first place right now. It's let me see. Let me look at the standings again. Right now, as of right now, they're 9 games back of first place. They're 8 games out of second place. The Rays have a 1-game deficit. And I'll get to that in just a second. The Rays are in second place in the East. Right now, Chicago's got a 9-game lead over Cleveland. Going into into today,
team, Chicago Bears or
the White Sox.
Sox?
The White Sox. Yeah, no, because in the American League it's the White Sox, and the National League it's the Cubs.
Okay.
So you get your it's like that meme where it's like you get all these like civilized stick figures talking about whatever subject matter it is, and then they say, well, then here comes this person, right? And it's like it's a bunch of punchy people coming in there like yeah. So I mean, it's like with me for being a 101st Airborne vet. It's like you get all the other three, you get the other 2 brigades talking how great the 101st is, and then you get all these special kids coming in representing the Rakkasans. We're like, Rakkasan, and just, we'll leave it at that. Houston's got a 5.5 game lead over Oakland for the lead in the West for the American League. If Oakland gets hot and they stay relatively close, they've got a chance at taking the division away from Houston. Is it likely? Is it probable? Yeah. Is it realistic to think that they could do it? Probably not, because Houston, as much as I don't like the Houston Astros, just because of the way that they run their organization from the top down, and my girlfriend's gonna give me that sideways look when I talk about her spicy jalapeno, Jose Altuve. The players to include Altuve. I don't see the Astros giving up that lead, or at least relinquishing the first place that they hold right now. But when we start talking about the wild card, every year the way that the playoffs are set is that you get your 3 divisional winners, right, from your 3 divisions, East, West, Central, and the East, right? And then you've got 2 wild card teams. And they added the second wild card team a few years back to kind of make wins more prevalent, to give fans some of these smaller markets hope to make the postseason. And it just really, I kind of like the play-in game. The wild card game is basically a play-in game. So the 2 teams that hold the wild cards, the 2 wild card spots, they play 1 game. It's a 1-game playoff to move on to the next round. Okay? So right now, Tampa Bay, they've got a solid hold on that first wild card spot with a 4.5 game lead over Oakland. So Oakland, as of right now, they're still in the playoffs. If the playoffs were to start today, they would be the 2, Tampa Bay and Oakland would be the 2 teams playing. And then the winner of that game, they go on to play the number 1 seed in the American League, and then everything breaks down bracket-wise from there. But
this is the reason why I don't pay attention to most sports, because it gets all confusing. Even soccer, you could.
Well, the way that soccer and hockey, I mean, yeah, your record matters, but the number of points that you score, you get a certain amount of points for, like, say, a win. You get a certain amount of points for the number of goals that you score in that game, and then, I mean, the points, the way that they award points in, like, hockey and soccer, it's kind of
Even a tie.
yeah. I mean, they have draws in that league, in those leagues, but they still count towards the number of points that your team accrues over the course of the season, and that dictates how you get seeded in the playoffs, right? So
I just think most of those people that actually figured that stuff out could be rocket sciences. Same with baseball.
yeah, they could. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, the baseball's even worse because it's like you start getting into the sabermetrics that they start using. I mean, then they break everything down. Like everything now in baseball almost has its own statistical department. I mean, we're even talking about spin rates among pitchers, and it's like, and people start freaking out if a pitcher has a drop off of like 200 RPM. Like Rich Hill, he was just traded from Tampa Bay to, I think it was Cincinnati. I forget who he was traded to, and I'll have to look that up here in a minute.
Yeah, it's probably on that. Who was it again?
Rich Hill.
Rich.
Rich Hill, Richhill. But they were looking at his spin rates for his breaking ball, his off-speed pitch, right, his changeup, and it dropped 200 RPM. So I mean, they were looking at that like, oh, he's on the downside of his career, and it's like, no. If he doesn't throw his changeup as hard, and he's got that much less RPM on it, you know what that equates to? That much more of a drop. I mean, like a physical drop. So when that ball comes into the hitter, it's going to drop that much more. It's going to maybe drop another half an inch to an inch.
He goes to the New York Mets.
Yeah, okay, so that's right. He was traded to the Mets. But as it stands right now, as of today, if the playoffs were to start today, the Yankees would be out of the playoffs because they are 3.5 games behind Seattle. Well, I mean, they're 3.5 games behind Oakland for that second playoff spot. And they're 2.5 games back from Seattle. Now, because you've got that cutoff line, right, where it's Tampa Bay and Oakland, and you got that cutoff line. The next team that's eligible to move into that spot is going to be Seattle. Now, the gift horse in the mouth, so to speak, would be, for Oakland and Seattle, is the fact that they're in the same division, so they're going to play each other a lot between now and the end of the season. So it's very feasible that Oakland could, just by head-to-head matchups alone, they could end up with they could end up passing Oakland for that second playoff spot or that second wild card spot.
Has the A's actually worked as a good team this year?
The A's were very, very streaky this year so far. I mean, they've got a solid. I mean, they've got the workings of a solid core of guys. I mean, you got your mix of rookies to veterans. A lot of guys that have got playoff experience, like Elvis Andrews. He used to play shortstop for the Texas Rangers. He's playing shortstop for the A's. Mitch Moreland he used to play first base for not only the Rangers, but he used to play first base for the Red Sox when the Red Sox won everything in 2018. So they've both got World Series experience. They've got playoff experience. They're both veterans, and so they've been around. They know how this is supposed to work, and they understand what it means to be a leader, not only on the field but in the clubhouse. So I think that the A's are going to be. I mean, they've got the potential to become a very dangerous team for the next couple of years. But the thing with Oakland is that, and if I remember right, I think Billy Beane, the guy that was portrayed in that movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt, he's still the general manager of the A's. And
that's the only reason why I knew it was the Oakland A's.
Right?
Because I keep on watching the short clips on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't sat down to watch that movie, take the time to do it and just kind of like take notes, soak it up. And Billy Beane, he's a very, I don't want to say volatile guy. He's a very straightforward, no nonsense producer. You're out of here kind of a guy, right? And he kind of fostered that Moneyball mentality. And And he pieced together a team of nobodies in 2003 with Oakland. And they made the playoffs. And they actually went on a winning streak. They won 20 games in a row, which is damn near unheard of. I mean, I think they matched the Philadelphia Athletics with as being the only two teams to have a 20 plus game winning streak. And
I thought it was more than that.
No.
It was just 20 games?
It was just 20 or 21 games. I think it was like 20 games, if I'm not mistaken. But look it up, baseballreference.com. Look up the 2003 season, and you should be able to find it there. But, and then something else. I can't remember if we addressed this or not last week on our episode, but the Cleveland Indians are going to change their name next year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
They're going to become the Cleveland. Yeah, so they're going to become the Cleveland Guardians, and it's more of this woke culture, bowing down to this is going to be offensive. It's like they've been the Indians since their inception.
Well, it's it's called the ESG analytics. It's basically for the stock market. Basically, what they're doing is the higher rating you get, the more the woke culture will buy the stocks because they're.
And see, I'm not willing to buy that. I mean, I think that is a straw man argument that the front office and Major League Baseball both threw out at everybody, hoping that it sticks like some kind of like newborn baby turd or something.
Well, it's one of those things that you just throw it out there and like, you're buying it? Not buying it. We got to come up with something more.
Yeah, to me, all right. So they've been arguing this point for years. I mean, it's going all the way back to when the NCAA started making all these major universities change their mascots from Native American references to something else, because it was disparaging and derogatory towards the Native American culture. It's like, no, one, it's not, because a lot of these organizations, to include these universities, when they named their mascots or when they named their teams this particular name, they conferred with a lot of Native American people in that area.
Yeah, like when Washington changed their name to the Washington.
Yeah, there was a group of Native American. There was a group of Native American Indians that were like, we don't care.
Not even that. They were upset because they.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that they got behind.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we get this. We're trying to gloss everything over, trying to be as least offensive as possible. And my take on that. Let's make America offensive again. So it's something that, unfortunately, it's just going to be something that we're going to continue to see. And the day that like the Atlanta Braves changed their name, you're going to see that city tear itself apart.
Yeah.
And it's to me, these are established clubs. These are established organizations. And I mean, it's you got all of these fans that for generations have been rooting for the Braves, the Redskins. They've been rooting for the Indians.
They even have the tomahawk. The tomahawk.
Yeah, the tomahawk chop. Yeah, I think that actually originated in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then Florida State University, they picked it up because they're the Seminoles. They're not changing their names because the Seminole Nation was like, no, we want this. And so NCAA gave them an exemption on it. But, it's one of those things that, we're trying to it is almost like they're trying to rewrite the culture in Major League Sports. And it's not just baseball. Okay, so like for example, one of the things that you look forward to when you go to play in Atlanta, whether you're there as a member of the team or you're there as a visitor, is being able to step out, or you're on the field, whatever. You get into the batter's box and you hear that tomahawk chant, and you hear the drum beat over the loudspeakers because I mean it's just getting the crowd whipped up into this foamy frenzy, and it really just. It's a morale booster for the fans. The fans get louder. The players, they start focusing a little bit harder, and it's been a part of that culture for years, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with racial division. and if anything else, these appeasers, these placaters that are renaming their organizations in the hopes of being less offensive. I mean, to me, that's more racially divisive than keeping the moniker that was in place.
Yeah. Well, on the other news is Trevor Bauer, and they also have the trade rumors for this season. What is the half of the season they're allowed to trade players and everything?
There's a trade deadline. It's if I remember correctly,
It's this Friday.
Yeah, it's this Friday. So.
And the reason why they're trading off,
they put this trade deadline. And I'll let you finish in a second. I'm sorry. Okay. So the reason why they put this trade deadline so close to the end of the season is because you got all these teams that are contending, and they have a chance to, they field their teams at the beginning of the year, coming out of spring training, and they sign a couple of free agents or whatever. If somebody gets released from their contract, and then some of these other teams are like, oh hey, we can swoop in and pick him up at a premium deal, they'll do that. They'll add maybe a piece or two throughout the course of the first half of the season. But you get these contenders that start to realize, hey, we've got holes or deficiencies in our lineup, and we need this piece or that piece in order to make us completely click, pushing into the playoffs. It allows those teams to better themselves, to make make their playoff runs that much more competitive, that much more legitimate. And then it allows the teams that are receiving these, other pieces from them, or moving players around. So for these teams that are out of contention, it allows them to build for something going into the next season. Because I mean, for the teams that are out of it already, we're talking about, we're talking about teams like the Washington Nationals, or we're talking about the Chicago Cubs. Right now, the Chicago Cubs, they are absolute sellers right now. They are tearing their team completely apart, and they're trading off these huge pieces that have been a part of their team since before they won the World Series back in 2016. So, I mean, and people like Pittsburgh. I mean, as soon as Pittsburgh showed up to play baseball this season, I mean, the joke is that they were already out of playoff contention. Teams like the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Colorado Rockies. The Colorado Rockies traded off a couple of their core guys. I think the only guy that they have left right now is Trevor Story, and they're wanting a lot for him. So he may end up staying in Colorado at least until his contract expires, or he can get to that clause in his contract where he can say, hey, I want to be released, or he can ask for a release and he can step into the free agency market and see where the trade winds take him. But
with Trevor Bauer,
Trevor Bauer, pitcher for the Dodgers.
The reason why they're trading him is, or not even letting him play anymore. It might come to that. They don't have anything. He's on a suspension right now, but they haven't gotten anything through that. It's because of the collective bargain domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse policies.
Yeah, and that's and I'm glad that they put that in place. Because you get a lot of these guys. And I say a lot of these guys, and that sounds like I'm painting the players' union with this broad paintbrush. 99.999% of the players who play Major League Baseball that are a part of that players' union, they are stand-up, law-abiding guys. Okay, yeah, everybody's got skeletons in their closet, everything. Everybody's got stuff that they don't talk about publicly because they've got their private lives. I respect that, absolutely. The reason why Trevor Bauer did not appeal the decision to be suspended was because he is putting his faith in the system to show that, hey, look, I didn't do this, but I'm going to let the system do its job, and I'm going to be ultimately vindicated. The guy is an amazing pitcher. He's incredibly smart. His baseball IQ is almost off the charts. Okay, he's a fire plug, man. I mean, as far as like personality is concerned, fans absolutely love this guy. Okay, I mean, he gets behind, when Joe Kelly a couple years ago, I think it was last season, he got suspended by Major League Baseball because when he walked off the mound after during a game versus the Astros, Joe Kelly sat there and stuck his lower lip out like, oh, pout for me kind of a thing. He's like, you know, because he struck out, I think it was George Springer at the time.
Okay.
And, you know, the Dodgers and the Astros, they've got that contention between the two of them because they played each other in that World Series. The 2019 World Series, was it 2019? 2017, when the Astros beat the Dodgers in the World Series, right? And this is with, you know, the whole sign stealing scandal where, you know, the trash cans in the dugout, and, you know, Altuve supposedly wearing that buzzer underneath his jersey, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? So I mean, it's basically the reason why a lot of fans view the 2017 World Series championship as having an asterisk next to it, because the Astros basically stole the World Series. They cheated to do it. And that's why you saw A.J. Hinch, who was the manager of the Astros at the time, and then Alex Cora, they were the manager and the bench coach, respectively. They both took a 1-year suspension from Major League Baseball. They were away from the game for an entire year because of their role in that. But Major League Baseball didn't even so much as slap the wrist of the players that were involved with it. And this was a centralized player-run scandal. They came up with the scheme and everything like that, and the managers, the coaching staff, even the front office, they turned a blind eye to it, because all they cared about was the win-loss record. They didn't care how the wins came. You know, anyway, so it's getting back to Trevor Bauer. He's letting the system do its thing, and yeah, he may end up, you know, he's going to miss the rest of the season more than likely, and this is going to get pushed off until during the off season, and it's going to be a big headline. It's going to be probably one of the bigger stories coming out of the winter, you know, or carrying us through the winter and all the way through the winter meetings. The winter meetings is it's like another free agency orgy, for lack of a better term. You know, I mean, they designate one city to host it, like they do with the NFL draft, right? So these winter meetings, I think last year it was in Nashville. Okay, so when the winter meetings take place, every general manager from all 30 clubs, they converge on that city, and they make face-to-face deals. Your guys getting signed free agency deals.
Is it like the Super Bowl where they're actually high in on the sex trafficking too?
No, because I mean they're there absolutely to do nothing more than just conduct business. I mean, there's a lot of players that are up for free agency. Got a lot of guys that are there at the end of their contracts. They're there to put the ink on that paper. You know, if they strike a deal, I mean, that player is there to sign the contract, and then they get announced during the winter meetings. So I look forward to the winter meetings just simply due to the fact that that's the biggest shindig for baseball during the off season, and that kind of holds me over, so to speak, until spring training starts again in February. But
it's like if you found your heroin dealer that's been like
yeah,
took a trip.
It's a dirty hit, but damn it, it's a fix. You know, I mean, he cuts it with baking soda and all this other crap, and he just dilutes it. But you know what? You get that small buzz. You know, you don't get the same effect that you do during the season. But I mean, it's still baseball news. It's relevant because, you know, hey, I mean, and that's during the off season. You hear that term "hot stove" being tossed around like crazy, and it's just because you get all these general managers and front offices for these different clubs meeting in this one city, and they're cooking up deals left and right. So I mean, the players are moving, and sometimes you'll find what they call as a blockbuster trade, where you get a lot of, you know, like it's 2 or 3 teams that are involved. Like this team will send 2 players here, so that this team will move this player here, so that way that team will move it to another team. You know, and if you're not paying attention to it, it's really, really easy to kind of get lost in just the sea of moving parts. And it's
like how I get lost in your eyes sometimes.
Yes, but that's because empirically I'm a more attractive man than you are.
Yeah.
But
and football news.
Football news.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Not Arian Rodgers. Good God. The guy is not German. He's not blue-eyed. He's not, I don't know if he's blue-eyed or not. I haven't spent that much time looking at the guy. He's definitely not blonde.
Anyways, Aaron Rodgers. Packers near agreement for return that could pave the way for the departure of 2022. Basically, what I was reading on this is the deal for the 2023 season will be voided by then, and he would basically retire, I guess, or whatever he wants to do.
Well, yeah. I know that Rodgers, I mean, he's reworking his contract, basically. So
He really wants to be on Jeopardy.
he does, but I think if he gets any time behind the podium, the host's podium at Jeopardy, he's going to have to share that with LeVar Burton, hands down. But
He's already been on.
yeah, he's already hosted it a couple
Yeah.
of times, and that was, I mean, they were just filling in. They had all these guest hosts coming in after Alex Trebek left us. But, the biggest part of it
what's
is...
really sad about that is you still have episodes of Jeopardy because they've filmed so many of them
Yeah.
that they still have. They just did that for when Alex Trebek died.
Yeah.
But they still had episodes.
Yeah, I know that they were
of-
filming guest host episodes while he was doing his chemo, but Alex Trebek, he missed very few episodes, or very few filmings of the show while he was going through the chemo, and nobody knew he had chemo until it became terminal. And then he just said, "Hey, look, I've got cancer, and it's stage 4, it's terminal. I'm not going to survive this."
That's one of the people in Hollywood you never really heard anything bad from. Always good things, which very, very few from, like a lot of the people that we met this weekend.
Yeah.
We met a Emmy winner for animation, and his story, which was on. I went over on that Sunday to do the interview.
Yeah,
it was
I-
only
I-
7 minutes, and he had a really sad story.
Yeah, and I spoke with him briefly when he was at his booth on Saturday, because I had told him, I said, the reboot that Hulu did for Animaniacs was just not that good. I mean, it was there for nostalgia value, but past that, it was just absolute garbage. I mean, it had a lot of woke messaging, it had a lot of that political leaning, and it was to the left, and it's just Steven Spielberg shoving that message down your throat through Animaniacs and hoping that the 90s crowd that grew up on the show swallowed it, and it's like,
Yeah.
and he said he's refused to watch it, and he even said something to the effect of Steven Spielberg and Warner Brothers banned all the original artists from the show, from the second season, from that reboot, because one, it was cheaper to go with newer artists, and two, a lot of them were conservative, and if they identified as conservative, you absolutely were not going to get a shot at drawing the new show.
What's really sad is he has 25 years of experience. He
Mm-hmm.
probably did Captain Caveman.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, he has a laundry list of stuff that he did, which, man, we can talk about it off.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I don't want to talk about all the. We did the interview and everything like that. It was only 7 minutes. It was very short because of he was a busy man.
Yeah, just so that way, so our listeners know and our viewers know, hey, look, if you want to find out more information about that, look up our What the Hell episode about the comic convention this weekend that was held in Wichita Falls. Take the time to watch it, because I know that for me, dude, it was a blast on that Saturday just to sit there and interview all the people that we did see. I had my two boys with me. And it was a blast just kind of watching them soak up all of that culture, because it was the first comic convention for both of them, and it was fun. I mean, fun for me just to kind of see the people dressing up in cosplay.
We had Venom Captain America. I think his thing is. I have to look at it because he posted on there while he was doing an interview. His dad. That wasn't. We'll get on that.
Yeah, we'll get on that one later.
That's
but,
what I wanted to do on.
But the deal with Aaron Rodgers is that, I mean, I get where he was coming from to the extent of him being able to voice his displeasure with the way that the front office was handling things. But what I disagreed with as far as Aaron Rodgers' approach to the entire thing was the fact that he aired out so much dirty laundry for the organization.
Yeah, he was just basically making a temper tantrum.
It was a full-on temper tantrum, and he's going to be eventually he's going to be enshrined in Canton for the Football Hall of Fame. I get it. The guy's got, he's
got a stellar record.
Yeah, his career speaks for itself.
He does have a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl. I think he was the MVP that year.
Yeah.
But it just the way that he went about it. He could have done it a little bit, quieter. As far as like the media was concerned, he could have said, "I have my displeasure. I have my grievances with the organization." But I'm not going to air out that dirty laundry. And I tell you what, I will almost guarantee you that if he had taken that approach, he would have had a lot more pull, and he would have had a lot more footing to make a push for the type of contract that he wanted. Will he like the contract that he gets now? He probably won't be 100% satisfied with it, but it'll be the best deal that he's going to get. Because if he tries to go to any other team, he's not going to get that contract because the salary cap, because of just the fact that you've got all these quarterbacks that got drafted over even just the last 2 or 3 years that are producing, and they're giving the fan bases for that team and from the front office of those organizations hope to think that they're going to be able to qualify for the playoffs and then make semi-respectable deep playoff runs. And these teams are starting to build. So you're going to start seeing a whole lot more parity in the NFL. But the way that he handled just the whole thing. Personally, I don't think I've got a problem with who Aaron Rodgers is. I definitely don't have a problem with the career that he's built.
Well, he's not going to be out of cash. He gets paid like 33.5.
His sponsorship deals alone will keep him solvent for a couple of years. But the fact that, again, he aired out that dirty laundry, and that's one of those unwritten rules that's just something you don't do. And I think that he not necessarily forgot it. I think he just chose to ignore that rule. And I think he went that route maybe at the behest of his agent. And if that is the case, well, then shame on both of them, because the agent should have known, A, better, and B, Aaron Rodgers damn sure should have known better. He shouldn't have aired out the dirty laundry. He shouldn't have been throwing people into the bus. He could have handled that in a very ambiguous way by just saying, hey, look, I've got my grievances with the front office and the way that things are being handled on, with certain aspects of the game or team management at least, but he chose to go the other route and just air out dirty laundry. He chose to throw people under the bus and, basically called for the firing of the general manager. Now, whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know. It just all depends on, how those negotiations break down. But I really do, I'm kind of excited to see how the NFL season is going to break out, how it's going to pan out over the course of next season. So, I'll spend a little bit more time watching football next year. And it's not because I won't have anything else to watch. It's just because just watching these storylines develop over the course of last season, this, and this current off season, I'm interested to see, how it shakes out. And, I've got little to no use for Roger Goodell. I've got little to no use for the NFL as a whole, especially with their COVID protocols that they're putting into place, with fining unvaccinated players up to $14,000. That and if you're unvaccinated, you can still play, but if you test positive, then they're going to make you go without pay for that week, go without pay for the time that you're out, and then they're potentially I didn't read too much into it, but there was even like rumblings about hurting the team that you play for's playoff chances, like penalizing the team, and it's just this whole vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers battle that's starting to wage amongst all of the organized sports. Because you even saw it with a couple of weeks ago with when the Red Sox went to Yankee Stadium to play. They actually postponed an entire game because 3 players on the Yankees roster tested positive for COVID. And so now everybody's talking about, well, there's still players that are unvaccinated, and they're on both sides of the field. And you get all these people that are like, oh, you should go get vaccinated. And it's like, you know what? It's the last time I checked, I know this is a tired argument, but the last time I checked, I mean, this is still America. So I mean, we still have the right to choose. And we're still responsible for our well-being. We're still responsible for A, B, and C. But it's like, now that you're making this mandatory, you're making it mandatory for a vaccine that hasn't been tested. There's even articles now where, I forget which one it is. I think it's like, it's not Pfizer or...
I think it's Johnson & Johnson.
No, not the Johnson & Johnson one. It's there was another pharmaceutical company that came out.
It's just the M.
No, not Moderna. Crap.
It was Pfizer?
No, let me look
Johnson
here.
Johnson?
Hold on. Let me see here. It's on the Drudge Report. The Sinovac COVID vaccine fades after 6 months. And now they're talking about booster shots. And it's like...
Well, they were talking about the booster shots because of the variant.
Well, the Delta variant. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
No, they're variants.
Yeah, variants. So now it's kind of like... It's kind of like a really badly written episode of Loki, you know, where we've got all these variants running around the sacred timeline, and it's, we have to prune them. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know how many variants of the cold there are? How many variants of the flu that there are?
There's dozens.
Exactly. And it's like, you don't see everybody flipping out. It's like, oh, we're going to make you go get your COVID vaccine, but you still have the choice to go get a flu shot or not. You know, and it's like, if you're going to be totalitarian about one thing, be that way about everything. At least be consistent. So that at that point, that's one less argument that your detractors have to make. You know, it's like, yeah, I got vaccinated, but that was because it was the way that I was approached about it from the VA was that I needed to do it in order to get my appointments through the VA healthcare system. And yeah, the Johnson & Johnson shot jacked me up. I got to go do a pulmonary functions test next month because I haven't been able to breathe right since I got the Johnson & Johnson shot.
Wow.
You know, I got my shot, dude. Like that night, dude, I spiked out at like 102 or 103 fever. I mean, it absolutely kicked my tail. You know, and if I had the choice to say, look, I'm not getting it, I would have absolutely said, no, I'm not getting it. Because you want me to get that shot, show me that it actually works. Show me that it's not going to put me at a risk of dying before I put that into my body, because it's untested. All of the pharmacy companies have signed a waiver of liability. So if you die from it, your family can't come back and sue them for a wrongful death. I mean, we're basically the test bed we were one big mass of human testing without the preliminary trials. I mean, none of the COVID vaccines are FDA backed at all. I mean, because the FDA is like, look, you skipped over all these steps. But I digress, because again, we're running into that
time frame where we need to leave.
Well, it's not necessarily the time constraints, but we're running into that fine line between sports and politics. And we've both discussed ad nauseum about how we absolutely hate the fact that sports have gotten political.
Yeah.
But NBA news, we need to address this. But in the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks won their second overall NBA championship, defeating the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. But good for Milwaukee, because
this is their 7th win since the 70s.
Well, I mean, as far as like playoffs are concerned, playoff series maybe, yeah, but no. Overall, it's only the franchise's only second title.
Yeah, because the only other one they have is back in the 70s.
Oh yeah, well you said 7th win since the 70s.
No, 70s.
70s. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
I don't know if it's your dyslexia or my inability to listen correctly, but
it's yours. I'll blame you.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry. Yeah, and I know that I jacked the lineup, whatever, I don't care.
Everybody knows what the actual thing is.
Yeah.
But, it's Val Kilmer. That
yeah.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, even the memes are getting it wrong. The GIFs are getting it wrong too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but there we've got consistency. So we're back on that. But, congratulations to Milwaukee, though. I mean, I had picked Phoenix to win it all. Now we're talking about, Chris Paul, CP3 is his nickname. He plays for Phoenix. I mean, there's a thing out there now that he's cursed. So it's like every team that he's been on has failed to win the championship. So do I buy the fact that he's cursed? Absolutely not. Will he still get into the Basketball Hall of Fame? Yes, you can better believe he will, just based on his numbers alone. There's a lot of great players that are in every Hall of Fame that never won a championship.
Did Larry Bird ever win a championship?
No, Larry Bird was part of that green machine back in the 70s and 80s, where Boston just kind of went off and they just won a ton of NBA championships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so but it you look at all of the major organized sports. I mean, you're going to have these greats. I mean, these absolute greats, legends in their respective sports that never won a championship. They never got to lift that trophy. They may have other accolades like Rookie of the Year, or they may have like so many scoring titles, or
Nope, the Boston Celtics only won one playoff game, and that was last year.
no. Look, okay, look. All right, so
I must be looking at it.
How many? Because I think it's like 17 here. Let's see here. Championships. Has the Celtics won? Okay, so they have, exactly. Since their start in 1913, they have been the most successful of teams, winning 17 NBA championships, including 8 championships in a row at one point. The Celtics' 17 championships is more than any other team. Now, as far as like number of championships, the Celtics are only second to the New York Yankees as far as overall championships amongst organized sports. Okay. The last one that they won was in 2013, I think it was. I can't remember. Because they had the big three. They had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen.
2007, 2008.
Yeah, 2007, 2008. Yeah, they won everything there. But there used to be a huge rivalry between the Celtics and the Lakers. And it's because those teams just kind of perennially met in the finals. It just seemed like they were constantly butting heads in the playoffs. And you had absolute studs playing that game. I mean, you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you had Larry Bird. Just absolute legends. Wilt Chamberlain played for the Lakers. I mean, you had a ton of people playing for both teams, and they were always meeting in the finals, it seemed like. And it was always a drag-out, knock-down bar fight. I mean, that was like, if you were to try to put LeBron on any of those teams, he wouldn't have made it. I mean, LeBron has to get carried off the court because he got a cramp because it was too hot in the stadium. These dudes are actually putting fists on each other. I mean, it was a 2-for-1 sale. It's like, you're going to catch this hand and this one's for free, and it's one of those. I mean, when you were talking about the age of the flagrant foul, I mean, you look at the 70s and 80s whenever, basketball players were basketball players. You get guys that are more technical now, and they've got more range and things like that ever since they expanded they increased the distance of the three-point arc. But, obviously the speed of the game is a lot faster now, but as far as constitution and just overall toughness of the league and the player per capita, look at the 70s and 80s, man. I mean, you had guys like Bill Laimbeer constantly getting ejected from games because he was throwing hands, dude. And I mean, it was fun to watch back then, and it's fun to watch those clips because these dudes are just manhandling the crap out of each other, but they're still getting the ball to the hole. They're sharing the spotlight. I mean, the assists, the rebounds. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch back then, and it was one of the reasons why the NBA was so successful during that era because of this, just the artistic poetry that was taking place on the court. Nowadays,
not so much.
Not so much, because you've got these individuals out there with these great shoe deals and other sponsorship deals that are out there trying to pad their stats. They don't give a shit about their team. Yeah, they want to win championships, but they're not playing as a team.
Back then, they had the deals, and they won those deals.
Yeah,
by being a really good player.
They weren't getting these multi-million-dollar contracts coming out of the draft, coming out of college, or into specific cases out of high school, i.e. Kobe Bryant, who earned his pay, earned his spot in the Hall of Fame, and LeBron. They both came out of high school. Neither one of them had the luxury of kind of, so to speak, cutting their teeth playing collegiately. But it was one of those, these guys, they had their sponsorship deals, but they weren't lucrative sponsorship deals. They didn't have these lucrative multi-million-dollar contracts. These guys had to earn their money because the sponsors were like, okay, if you're not going to if your numbers don't look like this year in and year out, we're going to pull the trigger. We're going to pull the plug on your contract, and you're going to lose that income. And it was a humble. I don't want to say it's humbling because these guys kind of grew up in that era where you knew you had to earn everything that that you got because nothing was given to you. Whereas now you get these guys that are just like, they have a great senior season playing in the college ranks, and then all of a sudden they get handed these multi-million-dollar contracts, and now they're out there driving Bentleys and Aston Martins or Lamborghinis, whatever. I mean, they're driving these supercars. I mean, they're dressed out to the nines because now all of a sudden it's expected of them, and so they're buying all the latest tech, and they're gambling on the flights to and from cities, and the culture has definitely changed, and I don't think it's changed for the better in the NBA. A lot of the players that are playing now, I mean, they need to be humbled.
Yeah. Well, we got one more that just hit the newsstand. Way to speak.
Okay.
Army lieutenant set new shooting record, wins Olympic gold for Team USA.
Hey, look at that.
It was First Lieutenant Amber English, 31, logistics officer in the Army Reserve. She hit 56, only missing 4, in the Asoka shooting range.
Yeah, look at that. Imagine that, an Army officer, a soldier. Yeah, okay, I get it. She is as pogue can get. She's a logistics officer. Fine, whatever. I'm not going to disparage her. She's out there representing the country. She puts on the uniform. She represents her country in and out of uniform. I will guarantee you that she's not going to be one of these tools that sits there and turns her back to the national anthem. And she's out there setting records. So hey, good for her. And I'm not saying that I'm going to completely ignore the Olympics by any stretch of the imagination, but I think for the most part, with the exception of the baseball tournament and maybe the softball tournament for the women, I'm just not that interested in the Olympics this year. I mean,
there's 16 military people actually competing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And at least she's a first lieutenant and not a butter bar.
Right.
At least she found the place.
Yeah, I mean, she's been promoted once, and so she had to at least impress her peers at least once, and doing it the right way, hopefully.
Yeah. But that's about it for this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
So let's see if we can do this here. Smash the subscribe button over here. Hit the bell, notifications over here. Give us a like on that corner. Leave comments down below. And if you're on any of our streaming platforms, i.e. Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
I think Apple's the only one that you can review.
Yeah, but they can at least still give us a follow. But if you're on Apple Podcasts listening to us, definitely give us a review. We don't accept anything less than a 5-star review. You can sit there and talk shit about us all day long. Just make sure you leave 5 stars. I mean, good God.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter.
Thank you very much for the Twitter.
Yeah, you can handle that because I get bored real easily with stuff.
Oh, dude, I'm still going through and trying to clean up that Twitter feed for our page. I'm just sitting there going, oh my God. You know, it's like, okay, I want us to stay relevant. Now, once we get a bigger following and we can actually hand a social media accounts like Twitter off to somebody that we hire specifically for that purpose, if they want to do the whole bikini clad women thing to try to get numbers for us, fine, do that. Just don't post porn. I mean, good God.
I don't post porn.
I didn't say you did, but thank you for outing yourself.
I'm David Dickerman.
And I'm Johnny Skelton. Stay classy, San Diego, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you.